Tell us what you think of Josh Dobbs.
In my acetaminophen-fueled haze, I watched some tape the other day.
There were 14 players on the field. It was unbelievable.
Everybody was blurry. What number is he?
More players, fewer livers. All right.
No, he's inconsistent. That's the reason he has not gotten more than, these sort of journeyman backup roles. He can deliver the ball, on time, in rhythm, in the universal plays, but I think because he's bounced around so much, he's learned so many different playbooks. Like, if you watch the first game of the Cardinals season, they're running the classics. Like, they're running the stuff everybody runs because that's what he's going to know, right? Like, that's what he's going to have. Like, we're running slant flat, we're running stick, we're running just the stuff everyone has, because I know you had that.
What was the Hank Stram play? 45 toss power trap.
Yeah, 65 toss power trap.
65 toss power trap.
But yeah, like just the classics. So I wonder if, if you want Josh Dobbs to play, which Kevin O'Connell already said, it's Darren Hall this week. Mm-hmm. But if you want Josh Dobbs to play, you might have to be okay with contracting the playbook a little bit, just because he just got here, right? And that's what other teams have had to do, as much as he's lauded for being smart and stuff.
As just got here.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah. So that's one concern. And then he's just not consistently accurate. He just doesn't set his feet in his base properly, and he just sprays them sometimes, and that leads to some absolutely horrifying interceptions, which I guess also Jaren Hall has some of those on his tape. So welcome to the Thunderdome.
Pick your poison. I tried very hard to find, like, analytically what is good about Josh Dobbs, and I'm trying to account for he was the tank quarterback. He was the selected man, the mercenary who came in with a job to do in Arizona, and he did the job pretty well. He almost didn't do the job well. They almost won like 3 games in the early season. And to speak to your inconsistency point, he had 3 straight games with a QBR over 75. And then he had 3 games with a QBR under 20. So pretty feast or famine. But play action, the deep throwing, the under pressure, none of it's great. Arif, I want to make you be the positive one. Is there anything redeeming about Josh Dobbs?
Well, first I'll say under pressure relative to the rest of the quarterbacks in the league, he's surprisingly average.
Average?
Yeah, which...
Yeah, pressure does not make his brain fall out the way it does a lot of quarterbacks.
So for a backup, that's actually extraordinary. So I'll say that. Second, I'll say he is a remarkably quick processor. Sometimes that will get in his own way. Sometimes he won't let players open up, but it is very good to have somebody, because he'll move on from his reads a little bit too quickly. But it is very good to have that problem rather than the opposite problem of not being able to read plays quickly enough. And you can work with that as a coach to try and figure out the best ways to utilize, what he can do well. He is, there's always this, Ryan Fitzpatrick, with the Harvard, we always have this understanding of guys who are smart in one category or accomplished in one category being smart in another category or being accomplished in it, and that doesn't really work out. But here, there is something to be said about how quick of a processor he is. To me, actually, there is a little bit of Keenum to his game. You mentioned Keenum at the beginning, and primarily that's he doesn't take nearly as many chances as Keenum. But what I think really stands out is that he is very aggressive in ways that he can't always cash checks. He can do a lot of stuff, and to his credit, he can do a good chunk of stuff. But he thinks he can do way more in basically every category of play. He thinks he's got a stronger arm than he does. He thinks he's a little bit more accurate than he is. He thinks he's a little bit faster than he is. And his arm is fine. His accuracy is fine. His athleticism is all right. It just gets him into trouble sometimes. But the thing is, if you've got a really good receiving core, that's fine. That's you can work with that. just like we saw with Keenum, right? Keenum was really aggressive about doing stuff that he could not capably do. But when you're throwing this to Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, that works out. When Justin Jefferson comes back, there is, the possibility that the Vikings just become a contested catch team. Not because, that's what the plays are being designed to do, but because Joshua Dobbs loves throwing tight windows and he loves throwing contested catches. If you combine like tight window throws and contested catches, he ranks like 8th in the league. Like that's just who he is. He thinks he can fit these tight windows, and that's a problem with Jordan Addison. I'll be honest, but I do think that when you've got somebody like a Justin Jefferson, you can make plays, and I would way rather have a guy who can give opportunities for your players to make plays than a guy that like honestly knows his limitations. In football, knowing your limitations is a weakness.
That's true.
So,
he makes the windows tighter too. The way because sometimes he just won't put it on the right shoulder. He'll bring a defender back into the play, and that contributes to that.
Yeah. So
So the movement skills for one though. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just like there's the only issue is that when you're playing with a lead, you do want him to dial down a little bit, and sometimes he doesn't do that. But
how many leads has he had?
It's more than you would imagine. But like when you're in a game management scenario and you're just like, look, I just want you to make completions. They could be 4 yards, 5 yards. I just don't want you to make interceptions. He'll be like, yeah, but there's like a 20-yard out. Let's take that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't got to take that. That 20-yard out is there to open up your 5-yard dump off. Throw it to the fullback, dude.
He's perfect for Kevin O'Connell, a guy who absolutely does not know.
That's right. Yeah.
CJ Ham about to get some ham targets. Lucan, Josh Dobbs, your thoughts?
Yeah, just to echo Arif, I mean, the movement skills for one, I think that's just going to add a whole new dimension with his legs that we haven't seen. That'll be a breath of fresh air. And then two, like Arif said, like just the ability to get the ball into his playmakers' hands more, given the setup that we got when your quarterback goes down in week 8 and you got to adjust on the fly. JJ back soon, Addison, Hawkins, etc. You just want to keep those mouths happy, right? You want to give them opportunities to go make plays. Nothing's worse than what we watched on Monday night. Jimmy G sailing go route touchdown balls over Devontae Adams' head, and he's fuming on the sideline. Nobody wants to see JJ upset before we go try and sign him to an extension next year. And so I know he's not a high caliber quarterback by any means. He's definitely got his deficiencies. Luke kind of laid those out. You get behind big, he will make mistakes. And in general, yes, he does look for the check down quite a bit. And, I will say, a lot of the league is playing these two high safeties this year. So I really don't knock him too much for that right now, these past few games. But he gives you enough positives in the pros and cons department, the checklist, including being extremely smart on and off the field. He can digest that playbook quickly, pick up a lot of the little nuances and details that KOC is going to ask for him. So I think he gives this team a chance to compete every week, which, again, getting the playmakers, the ball in their hands at this point in the season for the price that it costs, basically free. In fact, I think I heard Luke mention there's actually some lingo in the deal that we could end up getting a 6-rounder, which would be Aaron's 6-rounder, which would end up being a higher pick anyway. So basically,
I was wrong about that.
Wrong. Okay, well, either way, you swap a 7th and a 6th. It's basically for free. Not a ton of options is my point at this juncture in the season. So just given that lack of options, I'm excited to see how this whole thing plays out.
Yeah, I don't think that this was a bad move at all. And I feel the same way about Dobbs as I did about before when they had Mullins. I think that Jaron Hall ultimately still gets the first crack at things and will have the right to continue starting if things go really well. Sometimes that's a big burden to put on someone that, hey, if you mess up, you're out of here. That might be the situation that they're in.